The Boy and the Forgotten Sovereign. The Haven Citadel, a sprawling nexus of intergalactic trade, diplomacy, and culture, was a melting pot of life from across the galaxy. Every corridor pulsed with energy, a symphony of languages and colors as beings from thousands of worlds crossed paths. Yet, amidst all this chaos, young Aaron Galen often felt like a single thread in an impossibly vast tapestry. Aaron was only 12 years old, but he navigated Haven's labyrinthine corridors with ease. Orphaned at a young age after his parents, brilliant xenobiologists, perished in a shuttle accident, he had been raised by the station's communal society. Humans were a rarity in this part of the galaxy, and Aaron was often the target of curiosity or, occasionally, ridicule. Still, his natural curiosity and resourcefulness earned him a measure of respect from his alien neighbors. One fateful day, as Aaron roamed the quieter, dimly lit sectors of the station, those forgotten corners where maintenance crews rarely ventured, he stumbled upon something, or rather someone, that would forever change his life. Tucked into a shadowy alcove was an alien figure, hunched and draped in what looked like layers of torn fabric. The creature's presence felt out of place, even in the unregulated corners of Haven Citadel. The meeting in the shadows. Aaron hesitated, studying the figure. It was a female alien, her lilac-hued skin marred with grime and her silvery hair a tangled mess. Her eyes, though wary, glimmered faintly with intelligence and pain. Something about her regal bearing struck Aaron, even in her disheveled state. This wasn't just any forgotten soul. There was a gravity to her that he couldn't quite place. He stepped closer, his voice soft but confident. "Hey, are you okay? Do you need help?" The alien woman looked up, startled, as though she hadn't expected anyone to notice her existence. Her voice, when she spoke, was raspy, as though it had been unused for a long time. "Child, you cannot help me. No one can." Aaron frowned, unfazed by her words. He reached into his satchel and pulled out a tightly wrapped parcel, a sandwich he had packed for his midday meal. Kneeling, he held it out to her. "At least take this. You look hungry." For a moment, the woman stared at him as though trying to decipher his intentions. Finally, she extended a trembling hand, accepting the offering. Her gratitude was silent but profound, and Aaron felt a warm satisfaction as she took a small bite. "Why would you help me?" she asked, her voice heavy with suspicion but tinged with curiosity. Aaron shrugged. "Because it's the right thing to do. Everyone deserves kindness." A hidden past. As they shared the modest meal, Aaron couldn't help but ask questions. "What's your name? How did you end up here?" The woman hesitated, her eyes scanning the corridor as though ensuring they were alone. "You may call me Sarah," she said finally. "As for how I came to be here, that is a long and painful story." Aaron's curiosity only grew. Despite her guarded nature, there was a sorrow in her voice that tugged at his heart. He didn't press further but decided then and there that he wouldn't abandon her. For the next several days, Aaron made it a point to return to the shadowy corner where Sarah stayed. He brought her food, blankets, and even a small portable heater to ward off the chill of Haven's poorly maintained lower levels. In return, Sarah began to share snippets of her story. She spoke of a distant world, Zerathia, where she had once been a leader, a queen, no less. But betrayal had struck her court, and a powerful usurper had claimed her throne. Left with no allies and hunted by assassins, she had fled, eventually finding refuge on Haven Citadel. Here, she had become just another face in the crowd, forgotten and unseen. Aaron listened with wide eyes, his imagination alight with the images of a majestic alien palace and the tragic fall of a queen. Despite her circumstances, Sarah still carried herself with dignity, and Aaron couldn't help but feel that her story was far from over. Mockery and skepticism. Word began to spread among the station's residents about the human boy who spent his time with a mysterious beggar. Many mocked him, calling him naive or foolish for wasting his efforts on someone who, in their eyes, was beyond saving. Some of the station's alien children, particularly a group of reptilian chlorates, even cornered Aaron in one of the market alleys. "Helping the trash in the lower decks, human," sneered one of the chlorates, his sharp teeth glinting in the artificial light. "Maybe you belong down there with her." Aaron stood his ground, his blue eyes blazing with defiance. "Kindness isn't weakness," he shot back. "Maybe you could try it sometime." The chlorates laughed, but Aaron didn't let their taunts deter him. His resolve only strengthened. Deep down, he sensed that Sarah was far more than she appeared to be, and he was determined to help her, no matter what others thought. The glimmer of change. As the days turned into weeks, Aaron noticed a change in Sarah. Her posture grew straighter, her voice stronger, and her gaze sharper. She began to speak of hope, of reclaiming what had been taken from her. Aaron's simple acts of kindness had ignited something within her that had long been dormant, the will to fight. Unbeknownst to Aaron, Sarah had been quietly gathering information during her time on Haven. She had learned of her usurper's growing influence and the fleet he was amassing. She also learned of whispers among the station's underworld about a powerful artifact hidden in Haven's depths, an artifact that could turn the tide of power in her favor. One day, as Aaron sat beside her, Sarah placed a hand on his shoulder. "You've done more for me than you could ever know," she said, her voice steady and filled with determination. "But now, I must ask for your help in something greater." Aaron tilted his head, curiosity gleaming in his eyes. "What kind of help?" Sarah's lips curved into the faintest hint of a smile, the kind that could save a world. A call to action. The dim, flickering lights of Haven Citadel's lower levels cast long shadows across the narrow corridors, where Aaron sat beside Sarah. The once broken alien queen seemed more vibrant now, her lilac skin showing traces of its former brilliance, and her piercing silver eyes reflecting a quiet determination. The air between them was heavy with the weight of her revelation. Aaron's heart raced as he tried to comprehend her words. She needed his help to reclaim her throne. "What do you mean by save a world?" Aaron asked, his voice trembling slightly. He had always loved adventures in his books and hologames, but this was real. Sarah leaned closer, her voice low and urgent. "I wasn't always the shadow of a person you see now," she began. "On Zerathia, my homeworld, I was Queen Sarastra of the Zerathian Dominion, but treachery found its way to my court. A man I once trusted, General Kalos, staged a coup. He murdered my council, seized control of our armies, and drove me into exile." Aaron's eyes widened, his imagination painting vivid pictures of her downfall. "But you've escaped," he said. "Barely," she replied. "For years, I've hidden here on Haven, surviving on scraps and staying out of sight. Kalos's reach extends even here, his spies are everywhere. But I've recently learned of something that could change everything." The artifact of Solara. Sarah paused, as though weighing how much to reveal. "There's an artifact," she continued, "a relic from an ancient civilization hidden somewhere in Haven's depths. It's said to have the power to amplify the will of its wielder, making their commands irresistible. If I can obtain it, I could rally what remains of my loyalists and turn the tide against Kalos." Aaron's mind raced. He had heard rumors of Haven's deeper levels, uncharted and dangerous. The lower sectors were a maze of forgotten infrastructure and abandoned experiments, avoided by most inhabitants. Yet, despite his apprehension, Aaron felt a surge of determination. "I'll help you," he said firmly. "But how do we even begin to find something like that?" Sarah's lips curled into a faint smile, the first Aaron had seen. "I've spent years listening, piecing together fragments of information. There's a map, a fragment of it, at least, in the possession of a trader in the station's black market." Aaron's resolve faltered slightly. The black market was no place for a kid, especially a human one. But as he looked into Sarah's eyes, he saw not only desperation but hope, a spark of the leader she had once been. He nodded. "Then we'll start there." Venturing into the black market, the The black market was a stark contrast to Haven's bustling upper levels. Hidden in a labyrinth of dim corridors, it was a place where deals were made in whispers and trust was as rare as an honest merchant. Aaron and Sarah moved cautiously through the crowded space, avoiding eye contact with the eclectic mix of shady characters that prowled the area. Sarah led Aaron to a small, dimly lit stall where an insectoid merchant sat behind a cluttered counter. His compound eyes flicked toward them as they approached. "I need information," Sarah said, her tone commanding despite her ragged appearance. "The map fragment." The merchant's mandibles clicked, his tone dripping with mockery. "Ah, the Queen of Rags graces my stall. What could you possibly offer in exchange for such a treasure?" Aaron stepped forward, his small frame almost lost in the shadow of the towering alien. "What do you want for it?" he asked, his voice steady. The merchant's gaze shifted to Aaron, his antennae twitching. "Courageous little one, aren't you? Very well. I need a delivery made. An unmarked crate to docking bay 12. Complete the task and the map is yours." Aaron looked at Sarah, who gave a reluctant nod. "We don't have a choice," she murmured. The dangerous delivery. The crate wasn't heavy, but its weight felt ominous in Aaron's hands as they made their way to docking bay 12. Sarah had warned him to be cautious. Such tasks were rarely as simple as they seemed. The docking bay was eerily quiet, the hum of machinery the only sound as they approached the designated location. As Aaron placed the crate on the marked spot, a deep voice boomed behind them. "Well, what do we have here?" They turned to see a group of armed mercenaries stepping out of the shadows, their leader, a towering reptilian Crevon, grinning menacingly. "Hand over the crate, and maybe we'll let you leave unharmed," he growled. Aaron's heart pounded. He glanced at Sarah, who stood tall despite the odds. "This delivery isn't for you," she said, her voice sharp and unyielding. The Crevon laughed, signaling his men to advance. Just as they moved in, Sarah pulled a small, concealed device from her robes and activated it. A high-pitched whine filled the air, and the mercenaries stumbled, clutching their ears. "Run!" Sarah shouted, grabbing Aaron's hand. They bolted through the maze of crates and equipment, the mercenaries' shouts echoing behind them. Aaron's lungs burned, but he pushed himself to keep up with Sarah. Finally, they ducked into a maintenance tunnel, the sounds of pursuit fading into the distance. A piece of the puzzle. When they returned to the merchant, bruised and out of breath, he clicked his mandibles in amusement. "You survived. Impressive." He reached beneath his counter and produced a small, metallic tablet etched with intricate symbols. The map fragment, as promised. Sarah examined it, her fingers tracing the alien script. "This is only the beginning," she said softly. She turned to Aaron, her expression a mix of gratitude and determination. "You've done more than I could have asked, but the path ahead will only grow more dangerous." Aaron squared his shoulders, his fear replaced by a growing sense of purpose. "I'm not giving up. We'll find the artifact, and we'll take back your throne." For the first time, Sarah saw in the young human boy not just an ally, but a force to be reckoned with, a spark of resilience that might just change the course of her destiny. Into the forgotten depths. The map fragment glimmered faintly under the harsh artificial lights of Aaron's small quarters. He and Sarah sat at the cramped desk, poring over the alien symbols etched into its metallic surface. The tablet seemed ancient, the language unfamiliar even to Sarah, who claimed mastery over dozens of galactic dialects. "It's only a fragment," Aaron mused, his finger tracing the faint lines that appeared to mark pathways. "How are we supposed to find our way with just this?" Sarah leaned back, her sharp silver eyes fixed on the tablet. "It's not about the map alone," she said thoughtfully. "The rest is intuition and preparation. The artifact lies in Haven's forgotten depths, far below where most dare to venture. That's where the ancient ruins are." Aaron glanced at her, a mixture of excitement and trepidation coursing through him. "The ruins? You mean the old station infrastructure? I've heard stories, things about traps and strange creatures. Is it even safe?" It's not, Sarah said bluntly. But neither is leaving Kalos unchallenged. If we don't act, my people will never be free, and you, she hesitated, you'll never see what humans are truly capable of in the face of adversity. Her words struck a chord with Aaron. Despite his fear, he felt an undeniable pull toward the unknown. All right, he said, his voice firm. Let's do it. What do we need? Sarah's faint smile returned. Courage, supplies, and perhaps a little luck. Gathering the team. Before venturing into Haven's depths, Aaron and Sarah knew they needed more than courage. The ruins were treacherous, and two individuals, even with Sarah's cunning and Aaron's determination, wouldn't be enough. They needed allies. Aaron suggested someone immediately. Rex, a gruff but dependable Macarian engineer who ran a repair shop near the lower docks. A towering figure with mechanical arms and a perpetually oil-stained vest, Rex had a reputation for solving problems no one else dared to touch. Aaron found Rex hunched over a disassembled grav bike in his workshop, sparks flying as his mechanical hand wielded a welding torch with precision. Rex, Aaron called, trying to sound confident despite the intimidating figure before him. The Macarian didn't look up. If you're here to sell me another one of your scavenged treasures, kid, save it. I'm busy. It's not about that, Aaron said, glancing at Sarah, who stood quietly in the shadows. We're going into the ruins, and we need your help. Rex paused, the torch's glow dimming as he finally looked at them. His glowing red eyes narrowed. The ruins? Do you have a death wish? No, Aaron replied, his voice steady. But we have a purpose, and I think it's something you'd want to be part of. After a tense moment, Rex snorted. Fine, I'll bite. What's this purpose? Sarah stepped forward, her regal bearing unmistakable despite her worn appearance. To reclaim a throne and challenge tyranny. Rex stared at her, then at Aaron, before letting out a gruff laugh. You're serious. All right, I'll help, but don't expect me to do it for free. I'll take a share of whatever tech we find down there. Deal, Aaron said quickly, before Sarah could argue. With Rex on board, their next recruit was an unlikely one, Lyra, a young, feline-like felon scout known for her unmatched agility and sharp instincts. Though hesitant at first, Lyra agreed after hearing Sarah's story, her tail flicking with curiosity and excitement. The descent begins. The entrance to the ruins was hidden in the station's underbelly, a rusted hatch that hadn't been opened in decades. As they stood before it, Aaron couldn't help but feel a shiver run down his spine. The air was colder here, and the faint hum of Haven's bustling corridors was replaced by an eerie silence. Rex worked quickly, his mechanical fingers deftly bypassing the ancient lock mechanisms. With a hiss, the hatch creaked open, revealing a dark tunnel that stretched downward into the abyss. Last chance to turn back, Rex muttered, glancing at the group. No turning back, Sarah said firmly. She stepped forward, her posture radiating confidence. Aaron followed, his heart pounding but his resolve unwavering. The tunnel walls were lined with corroded metal and faintly glowing glyphs, remnants of the station's ancient builders. The further they descended, the more the air seemed to thrum with an otherworldly energy. What do you think built this place? Aaron asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Not who, Sarah replied. What? This part of the station predates even the oldest civilizations we know of. Whatever created it was lost to history. Aaron's curiosity burned, but the sense of danger kept him focused. They moved carefully, their footsteps echoing softly as they navigated the labyrinthine corridors. A sudden threat. The first sign of trouble came as a low rumble beneath their feet. Lyra, her feline ears twitching, raised a hand to signal silence. Something's moving, she hissed. Aaron froze, his pulse quickening. The ground trembled again, and from the shadows ahead emerged a massive serpentine machine. Its body glinted with a dull metallic sheen, and its many eyes glowed red as it scanned the intruders. A guardian, Sarah muttered, It's protecting the ruins. Before anyone could respond, the machine lunged, its razor-sharp claws slicing through the air. Rex reacted instantly, his mechanical arms emitting a high-pitched whine as they deployed a shield. The impact sent sparks flying, but the shield held. "Move," Rex barked. "I'll hold it off." Aaron and Lyra darted to the side, searching for cover as the Guardian continued its relentless assault. Sarah, however, stood her ground, her eyes narrowing as she studied the machine's movements. "It's not invincible," she said. "There's a weak point near its central core." "Great," Rex grunted, deflecting another attack. "How do we hit it without getting sliced in half?" Aaron's mind raced. His eyes landed on a loose pipe jutting from the wall, and an idea formed. "Rex, keep it distracted. Lyra, help me." The two sprinted toward the pipe, Aaron straining to pry it loose, while Lyra used her sharp claws to cut away the corroded metal. Finally, with a loud snap, the pipe came free. "Now," Aaron shouted, running toward the Guardian. With a burst of adrenaline, he hurled the pipe like a spear, aiming for the glowing core. The makeshift weapon struck true, piercing the Guardian's central mechanism. The machine let out a deafening screech as it convulsed violently, sparks flying in every direction. Then, with a final shudder, it collapsed, its red eyes dimming to black. A discovery. The group stood in stunned silence, their breaths coming in heavy gasps. Aaron's heart thundered in his chest, but he couldn't suppress the thrill of victory. "We did it," he said, a grin spreading across his face. Sarah approached the fallen Guardian, her expression unreadable. "This was just the beginning," she said. "The artifact lies deeper still." As they pressed forward, the atmosphere grew heavier, the walls pulsing faintly with an energy that seemed almost alive. In the distance, a faint glow beckoned, a sign that their journey into the forgotten depths was far from over. The labyrinth of echoes. The glow ahead grew stronger, bathing the walls of the ancient corridors in an eerie blue light. Aaron, Sarah, Rex, and Lyra pressed onward, their steps cautious but determined. The artifact they sought was close, closer than it had ever been for anyone in centuries, but so were the dangers that guarded it. Aaron couldn't help but glance at Sarah. The once weary queen now walked with a confidence that seemed to radiate authority. Her lilac skin shimmered faintly in the blue light, and her eyes, sharp and calculating, scanned their surroundings with an intensity that sent a surge of reassurance through him. "What do you think this artifact is, exactly?" Aaron asked, breaking the heavy silence. Sarah's voice was quiet but resolute. "It's called a Solara key. Legends say it's not a weapon, but a catalyst. It amplifies the will of its user, turning thoughts into actions and amplifying their reach across vast distances. For my people, it would be the spark to ignite rebellion against Kalos." Rex snorted, his mechanical arms clicking softly as he adjusted their position. "Sounds like a fancy piece of tech to me. Let's just hope it's worth the trouble." "It will be," Sarah replied firmly. Lyra, her feline features tense, suddenly raised her hand, signaling them to stop. Her ears twitched, and her tail flicked nervously. "We're not alone," she whispered. Aaron's stomach dropped. He scanned the corridor ahead, but the glowing light obscured much of their path. The air felt heavier, almost suffocating, as if the station itself were watching them. Voices in the dark. The group moved cautiously, the walls around them beginning to shimmer with strange, ghostly images. Faces, blurred and distorted, seemed to emerge from the metal, their mouths moving silently. Aaron shivered. "What is this?" he whispered. "The labyrinth of echoes," Sarah said, her voice steady but low. "I've heard of it in the old texts. It's said to be a place where the station's builders, whoever or whatever they were, left their mark. The echoes of their thoughts linger here, warning off intruders." Aaron's eyes darted around the corridor. The faces seemed to grow clearer, their whispers becoming audible. They weren't speaking any language he could understand, but the tone was unmistakably urgent, even pleading. "Are they alive?" he asked. "No," Sarah replied, "but their warnings are not without reason. The labyrinth tests all who enter. Only the strong-willed can navigate it." "Strong-willed, huh?" Rex muttered. "Let's hope that includes us." The test of will. The group pressed on, but the whispers grew louder, filling the air with an almost tangible weight. The walls seemed to shift and twist, creating new paths and closing off old ones. It was as if the labyrinth were alive, challenging their every step. Suddenly, the corridor ahead split into 3 paths, each identical in appearance. Lara's sharp eyes scanned the options, but even her keen instincts seemed useless here. "Which way?" Aaron asked, his voice edged with unease. Sarah stepped forward, her gaze fixed on the glowing walls. "The labyrinth wants us to choose," she said, "but the choice isn't random. It's testing us." "Testing us how?" Rex growled. As if in response, the whispers intensified, and the faces on the walls grew clearer. One path began to glow faintly red, another green, and the third remained bathed in the original blue light. "Each path represents something," Sarah said, her voice thoughtful. "Fear, hope, and reason. The question is, which should we follow?" Aaron felt a pang of uncertainty. The red path seemed to pulse with a menacing energy, while the green path felt oddly soothing. The blue path, however, was neutral, neither inviting nor threatening. "What do you think?" he asked. Sarah hesitated, then turned to him. "This is your test as much as mine, Aaron. What does your heart tell you?" Aaron swallowed hard, the weight of the decision pressing down on him. He closed his eyes, blocking out the whispers and focusing on his instincts. After a moment, he opened them and pointed to the blue path. "This one," he said. "It's balanced, not driven by fear or blind hope." Sarah nodded, a faint smile bracing her lips. "Good choice." The path forward. The group moved into the blue-lit corridor, and the whispers began to fade. The faces on the walls dissolved, replaced by intricate carvings of stars and constellations. The air grew lighter, and Aaron felt a sense of relief wash over him. "You did well, kid," Rex said, clapping him on the back with one of his heavy mechanical hands. Aaron grinned, the tension easing from his shoulders. "Thanks. I just followed my gut." Sarah looked at him with an expression that was almost proud. "Trusting your instincts is a sign of wisdom. Remember that." They continued down the corridor, the path narrowing as the carvings became more elaborate. Lara's sharp eyes caught something ahead, a faint shimmer in the air, like heat rising from a distant surface. "Another test?" she asked, her tail flicking nervously. "Possibly," Sarah replied. "Stay alert." The guardian of the key. As they stepped closer, the shimmer coalesced into a shape, a towering humanoid figure made entirely of light. Its features were indistinct, but its presence was overwhelming. The guardian stood silently, blocking their path. Sarah stepped forward, her posture regal and commanding. "We seek the Solara key," she said, her voice unwavering. The guardian tilted its head, as if considering her words. Then it spoke, its voice resonating like 1,000 bells. "Only those of pure intent may pass. Prove your worth." The air around them shimmered, and the guardian raised its hand. Suddenly, the group was separated, each member standing alone in a void of swirling light. Aaron's heart raced as the void around him shifted, forming images of Haven's citadel. He saw himself as a boy, wandering the station's bustling corridors, alone and lost. The vision shifted, showing him offering his food to Sarah in the shadows. A voice, soft and melodic, echoed in the void. "Why did you help her, knowing it would bring you nothing in return?" Aaron swallowed, the memory of that moment vivid in his mind. "Because it was the right thing to do," he said. "Everyone deserves kindness, no matter who they are." The void shimmered and the image dissolved. Aaron found himself back in the corridor, the guardian's glowing eyes fixed on him. "You have passed," it said simply. "One by one, The others reappeared, each bearing expressions of relief and determination. The Guardian stepped aside, revealing a door that pulsed with golden light. "The Solara key lies within," the Guardian said. "Use it wisely." A glimpse of power. The door opened with a low hum, revealing a small chamber. At its center floated the Solara key, a crystalline object that seemed to pulse with a light of its own, shifting through hues of gold, silver, and blue. The air in the chamber was thick with energy, making Aaron's skin tingle. Sarah stepped forward, her eyes filled with awe. She reached out, her hands trembling slightly, and the moment her fingers touched the key, the room erupted in light. Aaron shielded his eyes, but through the glow, he saw Sarah standing tall, her form illuminated as if by a star. When the light dimmed, she turned to them, her expression a mixture of determination and gratitude. "The Solara key is ours," she said. "Now we begin the fight to reclaim Zerathia." Aaron nodded, his heart pounding. The journey into the labyrinth had been harrowing, but it was only the beginning. The real battle lay ahead. The rebellion ignites. The chamber pulsed with the faint hum of the Solara key, its crystalline form suspended mid-air, casting shifting rays of gold, silver, and blue light. Sarah stood at its center, her regal figure illuminated as though she were a goddess stepping out of legend. Aaron, Rex, and Lyra watched in silence, the weight of the moment pressing down on them. Sarah turned to face her companions, her silver eyes burning with renewed determination. "The Solara key has chosen us," she said, her voice steady but fierce. "Its power will amplify not only my reach but our resolve. Together, we can rally the scattered Zerathian loyalists and strike against Kalos." Aaron stepped forward, his own resolve mirroring hers. "We've come this far. Whatever's next, we'll face it together." Rex grunted in agreement, folding his mechanical arms. "Hope you're ready, kid. If Kalos catches wind of this, we're going to have a hell of a fight on our hands." Lyra's ears flicked, her feline eyes narrowing. "We've got the key, but now we need a plan, and fast. Kalos' spies are everywhere, and it won't be long before they find out." Sarah nodded. "The key's energy can help us send a message, a call to arms. But it needs to be done carefully. If we're intercepted before we're ready, we'll lose the element of surprise." The call to arms. The group returned to Haven's upper levels, blending into the bustling crowds as they made their way to an old communication relay station, a relic of the Citadel's early construction days. Sarah explained that the relay, that had forgotten, was still functional and powerful enough to broadcast a message to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. Inside the dusty control room, Rex immediately got to work, his mechanical arms whirring as he repaired long-defunct consoles. Sparks flew as he rewired the ancient systems, muttering under his breath about outdated technology. Lyra stood guard at the entrance, her sharp senses on high alert for any signs of intruders. Aaron watched Sarah as she prepared the message, her hands hovering over the glowing Solara key. The artifact pulsed faintly, responding to her presence. "What will you say?" Aaron asked. Sarah's gaze softened, and for a moment, the weight of her past seemed to lift. "I'll speak the truth," she said. "I'll remind my people who they are and what we stand for, and I'll give them hope." Aaron nodded, feeling a surge of pride. Sarah was more than a queen. She was a symbol of resilience and defiance against tyranny. Finally, Rex stepped back, wiping his hands on his oil-stained vest. "Systems are online. Whenever you're ready, Your Majesty." Sarah stepped forward, placing her hands on the control panel. The Solara key pulsed brighter, its energy flowing into the relay. The room filled with a low hum as the signal amplified. Sarah began to speak, her voice resonating with authority and passion. "To the people of Zerathia, to those who have suffered under Kalos' rule, I speak to you as your queen, Queen Sarastra. For too long we have lived in fear, our voices silenced and our spirits broken. But no more. Today we rise. Today we reclaim what is ours." Her words carried the weight of her pain and the fire of her resolve. Even Aaron, who had no stake in Zerathia's fate beyond his loyalty to Sarah, felt a swell of determination in his chest. "Join us," Sarah continued. "Wherever you are, whatever your circumstances, know that you are not alone. Together we will fight. Together we will win." As the message ended, the Solara key dimmed, its energy spent for the moment. Sarah stepped back, her shoulders square and her gaze unyielding. "Now," she said, turning to the group, "we wait. A spy among them." The waiting didn't last long. The following day, as they regrouped in Aaron's quarters, Lyra's ears twitched, her tail flicking nervously. "Something's wrong," she said. "We're being watched." Aaron felt a chill run down his spine. Watched? By who? Before Lyra could answer, the door burst open, and a squad of Kalos enforcers stormed in, their weapons drawn. Leading them was a tall, reptilian figure clad in sleek black armor, a Kalos loyalist, unmistakably. "Queen Sarastra," the figure hissed, its forked tongue flicking out. "You've been a thorn in Kalos' side for far too long. Surrender the key, and I might be persuaded to let your companions live." Aaron stepped protectively in front of Sarah, his heart pounding. "You'll have to get through us first." The enforcer laughed, a cold, guttural sound. Brave but foolish. Before the enforcer could act, Lyra leaped forward, her claws flashing as she disarmed one of the soldiers. Rex joined the fray, his mechanical arms transforming into weapons that sent the enforcers scrambling for cover. Aaron grabbed Sarah's hand. "We have to get out of here." Sarah hesitated but nodded. Together, they slipped out through a hidden maintenance tunnel, the sounds of battle echoing behind them. The Underground Alliance. Aaron and Sarah ran until they were sure they weren't being followed. They emerged in Haven's underbelly, where the air was thick with the hum of old machinery. Sarah looked shaken but determined. "We can't do this alone," Aaron said, catching his breath. "We need allies." Sarah nodded. "You're right, and I know where to find them." She led him deeper into the station's forgotten sectors, where the Loyalists had been hiding. They found a small enclave of Zerathians, their faces lighting up with recognition and hope as Sarah stepped forward. "My queen," one of them said, bowing low. "We thought you were lost." "Not lost," Sarah said, her voice firm. "And neither are you. We have the Solara key, and with your help, we can defeat Kalos." The Loyalists exchanged glances, their initial hesitation melting into resolve. One by one, they stepped forward, pledging their support, preparing for war. With the Loyalists rallying behind her, Sarah began to form a plan. The Solara key would amplify their communications, allowing them to coordinate strikes across Zerathia. Aaron, Rex, and Lyra returned, battered but triumphant after evading the enforcers. "We fought ourselves some time," Rex said, "but not much. Kalos will come for us with everything he's got." "Let him," Sarah replied, her silver eyes gleaming with determination. "We'll be ready." As the group worked tirelessly to prepare, Aaron felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. He had never imagined himself part of something so much bigger than his own small life. But now, standing beside Sarah and her Loyalists, he knew he had found a purpose. The rebellion had begun.